everyone. Thank you so much for coming to our presentation tonight. I am so excited to introduce to you our app, Tamamon AR. So, some of you might be wondering, what exactly is Tamamon AR and what on earth is a Tamamon? Well, let me explain. So, it is a truth universally acknowledged that people like to take care of cute things, right? That's why Tamagotchi was such a huge success. That's also probably why we all own cats, right? And it's also true that people really like to collect cute things. We don't just want one, we want a lot of them. Like I saw in the news recently, some 77-year-old guy in Italy got arrested because he was going outside to play Pokemon Go. So we take this seriously, right? And so basically, what Tamamon AR is it's an application that combines the best of Tamagotchi and Pokemon Go by allowing you to collect and take care of these really cute things that we've called Tamamon. So, I've talked about it a lot. Let's actually show you a demonstration. All right, so you can see that we have our app screen up here. If I click into our Tamamon app, you'll notice that as soon as we've loaded, I can actually press the Start button to be able to go into the Start menu screen. And on the Start menu screen, you should notice three things. One, there's a Store button. Two, we have this kind of mysterious Pokemon button. And three, we have an Unlock button. I'm going to start with Pokemon. By the way, who here speaks Japanese? Yeah, so Pokemon is kind of a chubby cat, right? He was named because of the Japanese term pochari, which means chubby. So, let's see what happens when we click into his ARC. Oh, hello! He's appeared above the audience. Everyone who's near, feel free to say hi. You'll notice we have three buttons that allow you to either feed, clean, or hug him. Let's feed him. He's fat, he likes food, I like food. All right, so he says thank you because, yeah, he's the one that likes food most out of our Tamamon. Maybe we want to clean him, so we can just press the clean button, and now he's sparkling. Finally, if anyone is felt, I really like how the audience is reaching out to Pokemon. If we want to feel like a little bit better at stressful lately, we can also always hug him. So let's do that. Now, if we go back into our menu screen, we'll notice that there's a Store button. And this is because you can choose a Tamamon that fits your personality and what you think is cute. Personally, we've got a lot of options. One of them you might notice is kind of expensive. We'll get to that. Yeah, but I really like frogs, so let's go with Keramon. And now if we go back to our menu, you'll notice that there's now an AR scene unlocked for us to interact with Keramon. They all have different personalities, different animations, different reactions, so please have fun with this app. And finally, you might have noticed that you have these sort of strange handouts that we gave you. These are actually fully functional AR markers that you can use with our Unlock button. So if you download our app from the iOS App Store, you can actually scan this and unlock a resident celebrity, Potato! Yeah, so go have fun, everyone. Feel free to do that. We now have Pokemon in our menu, and I'm going to finish the demo here. Thank you. All right. Now I'm going to hand it off to Dan to talk about the team that made this possible.
Thank you, Mary. So yeah, we met Mary, who just did our demo. Mary was our team lead and one of the designers. She did a lot of the sprites for this app. We have Asami, who was our tech lead, front-end designer, and also did a lot of really good sprites for our app. I was the project manager. I also did carrying on, so a little bit. And we have Antonio, who was our scrum master and did a lot of the backend on our application. Okay, so now that you've met us, I'd like to go over the technology that we used for our application. So our app uses React Native, which is a mobile framework. It enables us to use React components to make a native mobile app. We used Vero React, which is responsible for the AR rendering that our app does. Our backend is hosted on PostgreSQL using Hasura, which is a GraphQL engine. And we bundle the app using Xcode, And lastly, you used Magica Voxel to generate all the lovely sprites that we used.
So now I'm going to explain about Frontend. Frontend has three functions mainly. First one is Tamamon menu. You can select default Tamamon. It is Tamamon. So if you want to get another Tamamon, you can go to Tamamon store. In Tamamon store, you can buy new Tamamon to use currency you gain from interacting with your Tamamon. And these pages are created by React Native. And next one is Tamamon AR scene. You can interact with Tamamon with all actions tracked in a central state, such as fetch point. When you feed Tamamon, the fetch point is saved to database, and Tamamon do some actions. Different Tamamon have different personalities and reactions. And some Tamamon requires an AR image mapper. When you scan it, Tamamon will appear on it. So you can get special Tamamon like Pokemon. And these pages are created by ViroReact. ViroReact is open source developer platform for building AR application using React Native.
Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about the backend. So we used Hasura for our GraphQL engine, and that enabled us to very quickly generate a GraphQL endpoint for our application. That's deployed on Heroku, which hosts a PostgreSQL database. When you first download the app and open it, it uses your unique device ID to create a row in our table and set a state. And from then on, the state will persist whenever you use our app. So when you clean, feed, or hug your Tamamon, it will make an API call to the database and make sure it's persistent.
All right, so it's not an engineering project without some challenges, right? So I'm going to go ahead and talk about some front-end challenges that we faced. So the very first thing that we encountered was how to properly position objects in AR space. And when it came to Tamamon AR, we actually tended to have about 4 to 5 objects in a single scene, which made things very complicated. And following that, we actually ended up running into some really interesting undocumented errors when it came to working with a hybrid ViroReact and React Native application. Now, remember that AR scene that we showed you with Pokemon? The AR scene itself is built using ViroReact, but the 2D UI interface uses React Native. And maybe because ViroReact is so young, a lot of the errors that pop up in that situation are completely undocumented. They didn't exist. So we had a lot of fun figuring those out. And finally, the last thing that we encountered was how to build both the code base and all of the design elements at the same time, because this was a really design-intensive process. That's it for front-end. I'm going to let Antonio talk about back-end challenges.
Sure. So some of the back-end challenges we faced were version compatibility. So our app was built with ViroReact 2.17, which is optimized for React Native 59.9. So when those two are working together, everything's great. Unfortunately, a lot of libraries we wanted to use are optimized for React Native 60.0 and onwards because it'll auto-link the dependencies between React and Xcode. And the problem with that is that if you don't link the dependencies properly, you're going to get a lot of bundling and compiling errors, so the app doesn't work. So the challenge was trying to link them manually and find libraries that could work with this. Another challenge we faced was data synchronization. So if you interact with your Tamamon and then you close the app and then you check it maybe a couple hours or a day later, you want those changes to be made so that when you access it again, it remembers certain things, but other states would differ. So if we have our app and our data, when we have to update the state from the database, and then we need to make these time-based changes to it. So if you fed it 5 times, after a couple hours, the times that you fed it should decrease or go to 0. So once we have that, we can interact with our Tamamon, play with it, feed it, and then when we're done, we need to make an API call to update the database. And that was a bit challenging because we needed to decide when is the best time. If we do it too infrequently, if you close the app suddenly, it won't remember it. But if you do it too often, it might overload the database. So we experimented with doing it in the background or using the Xcode app lifecycle, but ultimately we settled with making these API calls when the state changes. So some of the future features we want to include in Tamamon AR is first, push notifications. So if you haven't interacted with your Tamamon in a while, it'll give you a gentle reminder. but the longer you go without interacting with it, the more the message will get a bit passive aggressive or even hostile. But we understand that not everyone has the time to take care of their Tamamons, especially if they get busy. So we also want to include a Tamamon hotel feature so that you can check in your Tamamon and have them taken care of, so you don't have to feel bad about not interacting with them. Finally, we want to include these Tamamon evolutions so that as you interact with your Tamamon, it'll also evolve and change with you. So, thank you for listening to our talk. This is the QR code to our GitHub repository, which also contains a link to download our app. You can find more about the app and more about us in there. Thank you.